Now, this comes from the sharing of the story which Luke offers to his good friend. And he wants his good friend to understand more and more about the life and ministry of Jesus and those who followed Jesus. And then what happened afterward, because you may well know that he not only wrote Luke, but as far as we know, he also wrote the Acts of the Apostles, which is really quite remarkable. And it is perhaps because he was careful about what he did, he tried to do it sequentially. So while some of the other gospel writers didn't do that, it's clear that Luke makes every effort to do it in a sequential way, which I think is useful. And he also picks up on more information that comes from other sources and adds, in this case, a story that was originally in Mark, in what I said last Sunday, was the old ending of the Gospel of Mark, and it's about 2 verses, but he spent a little bit more time adding to it. It's really fascinating. On that same day, 2 of them were going to a village named Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and they were talking to each other about all the things that had happened. As they talked and discussed, Jesus himself drew near and walked along with them. They saw him, but somehow did not recognize him. Jesus said to them, "What are you talking about back and forth as you're walking along?" And they stood still with sad faces. One of them said, named Cleopas, asked him, "Are you the only man living in Jerusalem who does not know what has been happening there these last few days?" What things, he asked, that is to say, Jesus. The things that happened to Jesus of Nazareth, they answered. This man was a prophet and was considered by God and by all the people to be mighty in words and in deeds. Our chief priests and rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they nailed him to a cross. And we had hoped that he would be the one who was going to redeem Israel. But besides all that, this is now the 3rd day since it happened. Some of the women of our group surprised us. They went at dawn to the grave, but could not find his body. They came back saying they had seen a vision of angels who told them that he is alive. Some of our group went to the grave and found it exactly as the women had said, but they did not see him. Now, there's more to the story, but I wanted to delve into the concept and the idea of guilt, of doubt, the whole concept of doubt. Now, I know that sometimes people will come to church and they will have a question that they will ask that perhaps is embedded in their doubt about something, either about theology or about biblical stories or about what the church stands for that they're now attending. And a person may say to them, "Oh, stop doubting, stop questioning, because we got the answers." Well, on one level, we have answers, but at the same level, for folks who are inquiring and who are searching, it seems to me that it's important that we hear out their questions that oftentimes find their birth and their origin in some doubt. And that's not at all uncommon. Research that has been done rather consistently across the last 50 to 100 years has revealed that many people are turned off by congregations who are not willing to listen to them, not willing to explore with them, even though that church may have some sense of what they believe to be the truth. It's important that they go with that person where they're at rather than where they want them to be, and then help them on that journey. And so often that's been the case, that people are turned off because nobody wants to listen to questions because they've got the answers. So what might doubt be understood as having value within the journey toward faith? Well, first of all, the disciples themselves demonstrate that, I think, powerfully. And those who passed on to us, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, and for that matter, even many of the letters to the churches throughout the Mediterranean area, reminded us that indeed many people came to faith first coming with their doubt and their questions. Doubt and questions. Paul Tillich, by the way, maintained that doubt was a part of faith, that it began in many cases at the point of one's doubt. And if they're open and if they're guided carefully and thoughtfully and non-judgmentally, very often they will reach the point where they can say, I too believe. So let's think about doubt for a moment. I think about the ways in which children oftentimes wonder whether or not they can be trusting of the person who says, yes, if you jump off the edge of the pool, I'll catch you. And sometimes what happens, the parent doesn't catch them and they go under, and then they begin to wonder, is that person going to be able to catch me the next time? Whether it's the pool or if your grandparents off your dock. Indeed, the question may come. And children who go to preschool or kindergarten or first grade, they begin to wonder, can indeed this next year be better than the next year, the last year? Can I make friends? I had difficulty last time. So they begin to doubt whether they can accomplish that task or be involved with friendships that are good and lasting. One of our members, by the way, is going to be going to Germany shortly, where she was born, and she's going to go back and visit some of her classmates when she was in school in that little German community. A number of them who are like she, still alive, and she corresponds back and forth with them. They will, I'm sure, find great joy in their continued relationship and friendship. I must confess, when a couple of our members go traveling across the globe, sometimes without a whole lot of expectation that they're going to find lodging, they go without doubt. They are just absolutely confident they'll find a place to live, and they do. If you will turn to your dictionary when you get home, you'll discover that the word doubt is not defined as the antithesis or the contradiction to faith. That in fact, the message is very clearly a powerful statement that doubt is something clearly different. It is questioning. It is a sense of concern about the possibility. So when we're studying our Bible, the questions need to come. What does that mean? What does that word say? Fascinating, for me at least, the discovery that there's a word in, I think it's the 65th or 6th Psalm, and there's a word that's set off to the side, and the word is just 4 letters. And if you leave one of the letters off at the end, it will mean something different. On one level, if you leave the letter off, it means rock. If you put the letter back on, it means pause and listen. Now, these were songs that were written for people to sing during worship. And after each major statement of comment, there's this 4-letter word that says, pause and listen. Interestingly enough, they chose that word more recently in the last couple numbers of years that Israel has had people coming back, having been part of the tragedy in Germany over the Second World War, and they have named the place where you can go to deal with your pain, suffering, and trauma, and they will be there to pause and listen. It is a wise word because oftentimes when someone comes with a question, it's important to pause and listen to what it is that they're asking. Tell me more about your question. Tell me more about your thought. What is it that you're struggling with? And then perhaps together we can begin on the journey to sort out the questions that are so important to that person and to all of us for that matter. So these 4 things I'd say about doubt. Doubt, in sense, leads us to the development of a number of questions. Why do we believe in God? Why do we follow Jesus? What does it mean that God says, I forgive you, and that we are asked to forgive others? What does it mean when Jesus says, one more wonderful commandment I give you, which is an instruction or great wisdom from Jesus: love your neighbor as you love yourself. And of course, if they had said to him, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Well, any of us who have read any amount of the New Testament knows what Jesus meant by that. For he loved his neighbor, regardless of who the neighbor was, and however isolated, rejected, diseased, or lost that person was, Jesus loved that person. That's the call. Our neighbor is our brother and sister, whoever there is out there in the world, in our neighborhood, in our family, in our community, and in our world. So doubt leads to questions. And then it stops if we say, don't tell me anymore because your doubt and your question is wrong. Questions then imply inquiry, exploration, expanding one's understanding. It's my goal when I do a meditation to try to, both myself and with you, explore our understanding of who we are and how we have come to be, and how we have come to be followers of Jesus. And what does it mean when we walk out those doors that we are asked to love our neighbor, and how might we do that? So indeed, questions imply an inquiry, a search, a study, a prayer time, a quiet time to be quiet and to listen. Inquiry, it seems to me, opens up the possibilities of discovery. Discovery means that when we say, why does that ant go back into the blacktop crack? Why is it going to? Look at how big that thing is that ant is pulling with it. That leads to more discovery. So if you're a grandparent, if you're a parent, by all means, any question your children ask, explore with them. What does that mean to you? Tell me what you're thinking. There are going to be some questions that will be difficult for you, and you can say, I don't know. I don't know. I can only share with you what I believe, and my belief is this. Inquiry opens up the possibilities of discovery. And discovery has the potential for stimulating our spirit into greater awareness. I want to say again, the story of the prodigal son, this belligerent young man who says, I want what I deserve and I want to take it now, and I'm going to go check out the world. He does that, and then he has this moment of doubt about what he's done. He's sitting there mending his broken spirit, mending his broken body, and he is feeding pigs, and he's sitting there with his Playboy cufflinks on, as Bob Hodgel painted it, and he has this great question in his mind. What am I doing here? What have I done? And the question begins to be answered inside of him, that what he needs to do, and it's called, he came to his senses. Came to his senses. That's called insight. It's like the light bulb that goes on over your head, that image. Now I understand. And what he says then is, I have sinned against God and my Father. I'm going to go back home where I belong. And if he will hire me as a working servant, I will be there for him. I think that's doubt. I think that's the journey that we take toward faith, faith which is not contrary to doubt, but it is part of our experience and our journey to discover both who we are, why we're here, what we might do, how we might be aided, and what does this church, this body of Christ, mean in that process. I'm glad to be on that journey with you. And I'm convinced that the Spirit of Jesus' teaching, the Spirit of God's love, the Spirit of the presence of life is here with us, that indeed we will journey with great joy together. Some just beginning, others halfway along, but surely all of us asking questions and being open and honest in our inquiry. That Spirit will nurture us, I am sure. God bless you, and may the Spirit be with you. Amen.